Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste Om Ishwar. Welcome, Bhagavad Gita chapter uh, 12, and we are still covering that beautiful verse. I think it's verse 15, huh? The one that you translated. You know, enjoyment brings fear of disease. Family lineage brings fear of disgrace. Uh, Wealth brings fear of rulers or taxes. Very funny, very much to the point. As far as my experience here in Brazil, honor brings fear of humiliation. Power brings fear of enemies that want to make you powerless. Guilt brings fear of old age. Knowledge of the scriptures brings fear of debates against other philosophies, you know. And virtues brings fear of wicked wicked
Wicked.
wicked wick wicked. And wicked, not wicked, it's wicked.
Wicked.
Okay.
Nasty people. hmm
Okay. And the body brings fear of that. So it's just a verse presenting all the opposites. And we have seen Swami Paramarthananda unfold in this verse. And attachment to the body itself is the ultimate attachment. And that brings the ultimate fear. So before you have attachment to several things, family and your status quo, your finance, and then to each one of these attachments, you're gonna fear its opposite, you know, the beauty of the health, the use, and the knowledge you have, the health body, you know, and so on. Everything is standing there against its opposite. And there is fear. And then the ultimate fear, as a conclusion of this beautiful verse, it brings us to the most fundamental attachment, which is attachment to the physical body. Therefore, if I'm attached to the physical body, fear is the greatest, okay? Because it's not about losing some feature of what you define yourself as yourself, the ahamkara. You know, the ahamkara has several features and attributes, and you're afraid of losing those features that gives you a sense of security, satisfaction, good self-esteem, and so on. And they all originate by one fundamental attachment, with the attachment with the instrument of experience, the body, mind, sense complex. So if you attach to some features of the physical body, that's going to bring you fear of certain things. If you attach to the use and the beauty of the body, so there will be fear of old age. But if you come to the point to understand that the fundamental problem is not attachment to people, things, and circumstance, it's the attachment with the very body, mind, sense complex, because it's opposite. What is the opposite of life? It's death. So if I'm attached to the body, so I have to live with this fear of losing the body. Because without the body, I consider that I lose my existence, you know. So if one does not have an understanding of one's true fundamental nature, identity as consciousness, one is going to follow that line of logic as, you know, if I lose this body, I lose my existence. And then our teachings come to try to help us to reason a little bit better, say, no, you lose your physical body and your conscious mind every time you go into dream state and deep sleep, and you don't lose your existence. Huh? But it's still the mind is not convinced, because the mind is going to counter argument, say like, okay, but every time I lose my physical body, I lose with full conviction that I'm getting back later on as the awaker, when the awaker comes back from the other two states. So there is no fear involved, but to lose it altogether. And then the scripture come to explain, yes, so that the dream state and the deep sleep, there are two states side by side with your waking state, but there is a certain state which is going to free you from all the three states altogether. And that is the real awaker. That is your true nature as consciousness, the light that illumines and reveals the three states and the three entities experiencing the three states. You are that consciousness beyond all the three states. You are Turiya, and howsoever we want to present or construct this concept. The fact that the concept does not help anybody unless a concept becomes a fact, a reality to someone who somehow was lucky enough to internalize and get a doubtless self-knowledge. So attachment to the body, fear of old age, but if you are attached to the very body itself, the fear is going to be the fear of death. It comes without sending any previous notice. Usually it comes with old age, which is already a pre-note that you're getting closer to the window, okay? So it's almost as if we are standing on a line, getting closer and closer to a window from where we pass, you know? So old age gives us that somehow that previous note. But nobody knows exactly when it's going to be passing through. Therefore, let's see, therefore what? Therefore, Brittany says that anything you hold on to in this perishable meteor creation, you will experience fear. So there is only one thing that you don't need to hold on that is going to solve the problem of desires and fears, because all desires are desires for permanent use, permanent health, permanent financial freedom, permanent, but as we see in the impermanent, the ever-changing phenomenal world, there is no stability, there is no permanence. So there is only one source of permanence and fearlessness, which is your true nature as consciousness, satya, because although satya is the substratum of Nietzsche, it is not affected by the superimpositions of the Prakriti of Maya. Nothing can affect consciousness, therefore there's nothing to be afraid to. So the point here is if you get identified and if you get associated, and then association turns into attachment. Attachment brings up the clear understand that I'm totally dependent. When you realize I'm totally dependent, then fear gets strong, you know. So because you know that there is no security, everything is changing. You are leaning on something, that thing moves a little bit to the right, to the left, and then you fall, you know. So there is only one source, one principle upon which you stand as consciousness, fearless, limitless, eternal consciousness. And this is independence. This is asanga, a non-attachment, non-association, non-dependence. Non-dependence is independence. And to begin with, we depend on seeing people, things, and situations of the material world, but the invitation is transfer the dependence you have on the people, things, and circumstance to dependence on the scripture. So we often say, change and transfer your dependence from the world to God. Okay, so it's better we understand God as the scriptures revealed to through God, by God, from God. Why? Because there is something more tangible, more logical, and less mystical or esoteric. Okay, so you're going to depend upon the scriptures revealing the nature of Saguna slash Nirguna Ishvara. Either way, you're gonna transfer first to Saguna Ishvara, understanding the system, and then that's going to relax the mind, gives it peace, gives it more strength to deal with whatsoever adversity, cries. And then later on, in due time, we invite to transfer that dependence from Sagunishwara, which is not Sagunishwara, dependence upon now the construct, creator, and its laws and its principles, that operate in this appearance order. Once I understand, and then this appearance jiva relax, because there's nothing we can do about Parabhada. We can do about our words and deeds, our attitudes, words, and deeds here now. But once we transfer the dependence on people, things, and circumstances of the world to the scriptures revealing the nature of Sagunishwara, so we experience already a sense of freedom and security. But then still there is dependence, so you have to remember, hold on to your Bible, your scripture, your Vedas, remembering and doing things, to invoke that remembrance by pujas and whatnot. So you're still doing things to help you to remember the Lord. And then you can go from that dualistic association with the scriptures, with non-dual associations with yourself. Because even association we have with the scriptures, which is the ultimate association, and it must be remembered that within our culture, scripture comes together with the guru in one single package. So that association is yet an association subject to attachment and dependence, but it's association with the potential to help us to go beyond all associations, or better said, to declare our own dissociation and independence. I'm I'm free and independent as independent consciousness. I am consciousness. So therefore, that is the process that is going to free us from the depths of God, of the fear of death, which is the ultimate fear. So this is the only way to go. The only source of fearlessness and security is self-knowledge. That's going to produce vairagya, total detachment. You're going to learn to depend on the self, the atma. Self is a good word, and it manifests itself as aham, I. Everybody says I, the ahankara for another angle. So it's the self. So we can go about investigate the nature of this aham, and then we revise the identity. Re-examine the identity of this aham as aham, body, mind, sense complex as me. And you're going to be challenged to revise, to re-examine that conclusion, that mistaken conclusion, until you understand that you are consciousness. So once you understand your consciousness, you no longer depend on what? And the scriptures even, You still like to listen to the song of the scriptures. So you may have a pleasure in listening to music, but You don't depend on music unless you depend. Sometimes people depend on music. There was a time that I was dependent on certain type of music to facilitate my meditation, for example, But the music of the Shastras, the books, sometimes I think about that because in my entire process, I was traveling, I was, moving around the world as, how you say, it's people who moves around the world. In the East Europe, there are many, I forgot the way they call them,
Are you thinking gypsies?
gypsies, yeah. So I was moving around the world as a gypsy, spiritual gypsy. And I was leaving behind all my books, my books, and I was giving them away when I thought I'm leaving, I don't know when I come back. And and then the last few books are there in Italy. And I had to look at that. So what happens if I will never have access to my books? What happens if there is something that happens in the world that we lose the internet? And then I don't have access to the digital scriptures anymore, and I don't have my books. Well, we need to become living scriptures. The knowledge has to be assimilated to an extent that you are not only a testimony, a proof of this knowledge, but you have assimilate the scriptures in the way that you can rephrase it. So this internalization of self-knowledge is going to create a sense of independence, standing on your own as consciousness. And for that, we need to strengthen our personality to become strong mind, firm, based on a firm self-knowledge. You don't need to escape from the world, just be strong enough to deal with the world. I have given you the example. This is another example Swamiji likes to present. Because in the old days, maybe on the beginning of the past century, it was somehow fashionable to go around with a stick. The middle class, higher class would go for the Sunday afternoon walk, and then they would go with the stick. It was a symbol somehow of something. And some other people, they were using a stick, but because they had no strength to walk without the stick. So big difference. One is using this body, mind, sense complex without leaning on it, without depending on it, without attachment to it. And the other is using the body, mind, sense complex, totally attached and depend to it. So if the body, mind, sense complex collapse, the person who is using it without leaning or being attached to it or depend to it is not going to experience great fear or despair. But the person who is using a body, mind, sense complex, totally leaning and depending or attached to it, is going to experience great fear and despair for anything, even a blood work result that was not showing so good. And psychologically, one uses the body mind sense complex, another one leans on it, depends on it. If you lean on something, you're going to experience dependence. Without that thing, you're going to collapse, break your nose, and so on. Fear is going to be there. So therefore, the invitation here, we should ask ourselves, we have to remember Vedanta is about ourselves, it's not about the body of knowledge or the teaching methodology, it's about ourselves examining. We have to ask, am I holding or am I leaning? I'm holding on or leaning on, or I'm just using this body mind. So it's a good a good inquiry for each one of us, which of course requires intellectual integrity, honesty. If we are leaning, we experience mental disturbance, emotional disturbance, sorrow, anxiety, fear, and a long list of emotional disturbance, generally referred to as the sickness of samsara. So we need to transcend all of that, declaring our independence, our freedom, and then we are called at this stage of the Gita an Advaita Bhakta. So I am devotee of Nirguna Atma, the only Atma, the only self there is, the only Aham there is the double I, as some would say, or the ultimate Aham. And how does someone achieve that? It does not mention here Krishna, but it is a gradual process, says Swamiji. He says on the 7th chapter, we have seen that this process is gradual from world dependence to Ishvara dependence, later on to Nirguna Atma dependence, which is my own self, therefore independence. Discovering the Lord as my own nature. God dependence will turn into self-dependence. It's again, when we say self-dependence, immediately the mind says, oh, I'm dependent now on myself. Self-dependence is dependence on consciousness, the only reality, because there is nothing to be afraid if you really understand what it means to be consciousness, the only reality. And self-dependence is no dependence or independence. So freedom from dependence is muktaha. And Krishna says, such a person is the most intimate to me, or the dearest to me. Verse 16, that devotee of mine who is independent, pure, resourceful, efficient, impartial, undisturbed, and the renouncer of actions is dear to me. So now he is exalting the Jnani, the one who came to that self-realization and was purified in the fire of self-realization, and carries on a further purification, effortless purification, by living from the perspective or faithfully or in harmony with one's true nature as consciousness. So such a devotee experiences a sense of independence. Who is independent is pure, because the mind has to be purified enough so that not only you can get self-knowledge, but you can live from the standpoint of Aham Brahmasmi. This is important to understand. So it is independent and it's pure. So you need a certain degree of sattva guna to go through Atma Vichara and get this knowledge. But then the purity comes, it is reflected by demonstration to the extent that we live, in conformity, in harmony, if my life and my knowledge are on the same page, So one who has realized one's independence as consciousness, with a pure mind, it somehow lives from that perspective of knowledge, and who is resourceful. So resourceful, I want to see what Swamiji, how he explains this one, the interpretation of resourcefulness here. Efficient is more easily guessed because the mind is more sattvic, And the sattvic mind is much more efficient, has better insights, better understandings and visions, and it is impartial. Impartial means to say it's. I'm sorry, but the this instrument here is more like a witnessing testimony. You know, I'm just witnessing life, and I'm not taking part. You know, I'm not right. I'm not left. I'm not this. How you say? Seahawks, you know, won the. It's so funny. The last year, my last year in the United States, our last year in the United States was 2014, and I was invited for my last Super Bowl in the house of a friend, and Seahawks played that final. I don't know if we won. I try to remember if 2014 Seahawks lost the final, but. I was surprised that Seahawks again got into the final, and I started watching a little bit, but then it was too late. Here, I fell asleep. I saw the result and the best highlights, the highlights of the game. But anyhow, all those divisions, it gives a sense of impartiality. You know, now I am for this part, I am for that part. You know, I am for the for the Pandavas. You know, I know I am for the part of the I forgot the name of the family of Duryodhana. Please.
The Pandavas.
No, the other one. Yeah, Duryodhana.
The Kauravas. Kauravas.
Hmm. Okay.
Pandavas and the Kauravas.
Okay. So not to be partial. I mean, Ishvara takes no part. We say it's totally impersonal. It's a system. It's facilitating our processing of karma, of our vasanas, bringing our prarabdhas, design, with no mistakes. And likewise, so the self-knowledge should make the mind of the yoni a little bit more on those terms. And that is the meaning of equanimity or an ability to witness things without taking part, without emotional hooks and so on. And if you have a efficient and impartial kind of mental attitude, emotional attitude, you are not going to feel disturbance, mental, emotional disturbance. Therefore, it's undisturbed. And then, and the renouncer of all actions. So here it has to be understood. It renounce its sense of identity as the ahamkara, as the ego. The ego is that aham thought, the mind is just thoughts, and they're all based on the fundamental thought, which is I. So the ego is this fundamental thought, I, aham, identified as what? As the doer of actions and the originator of its thoughts, and so on. So I am the I, and the I is hooked up to believe that I am the body mind, and the mind is a thought. A thought is I am the body mind, and I am the doer of all actions and the thinker of all thoughts, So you have to renounce that piece of ignorance, by understanding that our sense of doership is a delusion, because in order for any and all actions to take place, there are innumerous other factors much, much, much beyond our own contribution through our instrument of actions, our mind as well. So we have a certain capacity to filter thoughts which are not helping us in progressing spiritually. We have this intellectual ability that distinguish us from machines or from other creatures, maybe. We are not robots because we have this self-conscious intellect that can always examine one's actions and one's thoughts, we can reflect upon, and then we can say, so those thoughts are no good, those actions are no good, they are bringing more suffering. So I'm gonna renounce all those actions, and furthermore, the identification as the doer of actions, even good actions, bad actions, fundamentally, the identification as the doer has to be totally abandoned. Therefore, Krishna says, this is the most intimate to me. You see, the yoni is a development, a gradual development by which the individual becomes more and more human or physical or mithya manifestation of that which is the nature of Satya, So total independence, purity, there is no purity such as original consciousness, efficiency when it manifests, in this physical world, projected by the Prakriti of Maya. So as consciousness, the mind of such a being is developing more impartiality, it's experiencing less and less disturbance, and it abandons the notions that I am the doer of my actions and the thinker of all my thoughts. Therefore, Krishna says, this is an expression of myself. This is someone who is me, and I am this person, this instrument. So it's the closest possible manifestation of my nature. The yoni has to develop some features or characteristics which are closer to the nature of Brahman or conscious existence. Swami says one who is emotionally free from dependence on external factors. One is satisfied regardless of circumstance. So therefore there are no expectations. Expectations bring about frustration, as we know, because we cannot control the parabada, the field, the Dharma field. And Swami talks about some addictions such as cigarette. And then there was a short period of time in my life that I was smoking cigarettes, and then I had to see, I'm going to run out of cigarettes. This is a memory from India, because I smoked for a very short period of time. In India, I was smoking cigarettes, and sometimes I say, I'm without cigarettes, and it's 8 in the night, everything is closed here. I had to take my bike and drive all the way to the rail station, because there was a place I could buy a cigarette 9 p.m. or something. So if you have a dependence, you develop expectation, because I like to smoke a cigarette short just before going to bed. It's an old habit. Nighttime cigarette. Every dependence brings about frustration, expectation, frustration, and unhappiness. Nobody likes to be dependent. So some puts all in one package, breaking down dependence with expectation. Freedom from dependence is also freedom from expectations, of course, because dependence is more than a desire. It's a desire that became a habit, and then a habit, becomes an addiction, and then we can throw expectation there as well. I expect my addictions to be met. So that way makes it more clear. I expect my addictions to be met. If I'm addicted to coffee as well, and somehow, I run out of coffee, and there is no coffee in the market for some reason. So there is space for frustration, disappointment, and suffering. Therefore, ultimate freedom from frustration, expectation depends on not leaning, not depending on anything. Even family members such as children. We develop desires develops expectations, as we know, and that goes for every area of our life. So professionally, family, and emotionally, expectation in regards to promotions in the world, in the work, which is a big one. If expectations are not fulfilled, there will be emotional suffering. Scriptures of Vedanta say, have no expectations, have no attachment, have no dependence. The difference between Vedanta and most of other spiritual philosophies or something like that is that we don't just say that have no expectation, have no dependence, have no desires for things of this world. We go through a process by which we support that statement and we inspire each one of us to get into that fight, because old habits are so profoundly hardwired, uproot those tendencies to desire things that develop themselves into habits, addictions, and then brings about expectation and frustration. You need to understand the process by which you set yourself up. And not only that, you have to understand that you are developing expectation, desire expectation, which is conducive to frustration for things that will never deliver what you are searching for, which is a sense of freedom and peace. So understanding is everything. Sometimes in the YouTube, I see some small clips. Lately, I got into a channel that has a lot of good small clips here and there from Advaita. They call it Advaita Vedanta, but it's all direct paths and all different kind of people, so-called teachers from the old days or from more recent times. So they all say no expectation, no attachment, no dependence, no ego, but they don't have any logic to inspire and support the person to really fight this very difficult fight. You understand? You're fighting profound vasanas, very much established in the causal body. You need to go deep, understanding the entire system. You cannot go mantrically say, yes, Aham Brahmasmi, I am now, I don't have any desire, I'm totally detached. You can repeat those things 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times, 1,000,000,000 times. I don't expect anything from anyone, Oh, I live from happiness only, and I don't work, I don't do anything for happiness, So people may say that, but it's just like a repetition, mantric repetition. Another thing is to go through the process by which you contemplate the entire dynamic by which we get imprisoned by these notions that duality is reality, and I need to go for things, people, and circumstances because that's going to give me peace and security and happiness. So how to break that ignorance, you need so much knowledge, and not knowledge in respect to I am a humble, I am free, whole, and complete, I am free of attachment, desire. No, it's not enough to repeat those things. I mean, I did not know Vedanta. All I had was those final pointers. Those are the final fragments of the Yana Yoga, of the declarations. But even in our Upanishads, we always present the logic. You understand? We don't say oh, you are Brahman. No, we go through the entire Upanishad, present the logic that's going to prove that you are Brahman, you are limitless consciousness, you know? So, and then Swami, do not have expectations at all. How are you going to not have expectation? By understanding that expectation comes from desires, you know, and it's going to be followed by frustration and a lot of mental emotional disturbance. And then Swami, just to take it easy on those 50 or 100 people listening to him, he says, our scripture says, it's okay to have expectations, but let it be non-binding. Okay, that's okay. We say having desires must be in total harmony, conformity with Dharma. They should be genuinely moderate as well, genuine and moderate. And this desire should be non-binding, meaning to say if they are fulfilled, great. If they are not fulfilled, great. I don't depend on the fulfillment of those desires. The same way expectations, we may have some expectation. And that goes to see that when I watch Inter Milan playing the soccer game, I hope for the best, you know, and I keep watching. And says, am I expecting it to win? Oh, but you know, win all the time. Now we have won 9 games in a row, you know, and the other teams are suffering, and the supporters are suffering as well. I think sometimes we should lose because happiness should be distributed to all, you know. So we need to play with our minds to avoid expectations and mental disturbance. If it's fulfilled, wonderful. If it's not fulfilled, good. Wonderful as well. I'm willing to take that because it is not really frustration. It's not really disturbance. It's just like whatever, you know, whatever. So what? We live with our preference as a human beings. As human beings, we cannot help but have preference, but we should stop at preference and watch those preferences, never allow them to become strong desires, binding desires. No? Otherwise, we're going to suffer because we can't we can't control our experience. So the way to go is developing mental strength, as Swami sometimes puts it. I hope for the best. I prepare for the worst. If the expectation does not happen, first he asks, what? Terrible news. And then later on, that philosopher brought this proverb that Swamiji likes very much. He will say, so what? You know? What? So what? It does not matter. Maybe something very terrible. So what? This is mithya, you know. And we should not say this is mithya like some people say, without just as a means to negate their frustration, the emotional suffering, because this so what should come from a deep place of self-recognition, self-knowledge that allows you to say, so what, without having to tell anybody, just to yourself, it's okay. It's good when it's good. It's good when it's not good. It's good when we win. It's good when we lose as well, because fundamentally, I will never lose and I will never win anything in this world. I'm full, whole, and complete consciousness. That's what it boils down to. Developing mental strength to hope for the best and the expectation, so what not. So he has also this joke he likes someone was driving or walking somehow in the city downtown, saw I would say one of these outdoor advertisement saying like Jesus never fails. You know that one, Mark? Uh, we all know all some of these jokes by now, huh?
Yeah, most of them. I hope he's got a few more fresh ones for me.
Yeah, sometimes I mean by now it's a long time I don't see a new one. But Jesus never fails. And I understand his situation because there is a limit for everything, even the jokes the guru can bring as illustration. And the people in Portuguese here who study with me for a long time, they know already all my jokes, but yet I repeat them for the sake of others, that did not hear to the jokes yet. Jesus never fails. And then the person wrote in Bash underneath in that outdoor advertisement. So try to pass this exam, So he should disappointment. Okay, he did not go into that joke really. Oh no, let him try CA, which is one of those exams for some high positions in the state or something like that, or some corporation. Resilience, fortitude, balance, strength. This resilience of mind is necessary. How to develop such a strong mind? It's a long process, okay? Which begins with Karma Yoga, accepting whatsoever comes as prasada, with a good attitude, not fighting life, not fighting sure. So this capacity depends on freedom from expectation, or at least freedom from binding expectations. The next feature is sushi, means the one who is clean externally and internally. So yani does not mean that he should be careless about things. So the one who is clean externally, that's what he means by that feature that I did not know. What is it? Let me see here in the virtue brings honor, brings wealth, brings fear. No, I'm confused.
I think in the verse it translated the purity. Well, I don't know. Resourceful is after purity, but it doesn't show up in the verse, really.
Oh yeah, resourcefulness. That's what I want to say. In the verse in Sanskrit did not show this word. Let me see. Which is different from cleanliness, right? Cleanliness, it goes for purity, internal and external. And when he unfolds, when he comments he does not refer to resourcefulness, right? Yeah. Okay. He did not know what to say about that either. But I'm sure he would know how to say something about, but it was not very relevant, probably. Externally means the place where we stay should be okay, clean. No, internally is more difficult, but if externally somebody lives in a very messy and dirty place, it is somehow an indication that internally the mind is also messy and impure. We know when things are too messy, unless you have given up, unless you are so used to have an inner messiness, mental, emotional, messy environment, and then your external environment is also messy. Okay. And when I was owning a restaurant there in the United States, sometimes I used to go to the place of one of my workers, and they were kids, early 20s, mid 20s, living with other people, sharing the same house, every person in one bedroom. And then the problem is always the same. They are young, they don't like to do housework, homework. It's difficult for them to keep the bedroom clean. But the biggest thing is the kitchen, the pots and plates piles up. And it was so disgusting to see that. And it's an indication that mentally and emotionally they were all over the place as well. Externally means the place that we stay should be clean. Cleanliness is keeping with Dharma. The next one is upashidnaha, indifference or impartiality. Indifference, that's why when James used to say indifference to the results of my action, I always immediately I start editing that and say positive indifference towards my parabada, towards the results, Positive indifference is something positive, Negative indifference is I don't give an F, It's more into depression. So we should not take in the sense of negative indifference, but positive. You are not partial. You are not attached to this or that. You are impartial. You understand the system, the Saguneshwara system. You don't belong to any groupism, right and left or anything. You just watch everything and you try to access the best possible way you can. The society is full of groupism. It's politically big time. All over the world, every nation is divided by this kind of groupism. If you are divided, you are more easily conquered and dominate. There are 10 people will join one group and the other, things like that. On the field of sports, people divide. Everywhere we divide. We identify with people and notions and ideas and concepts and philosophies and oh no, I am a Vedantine, so and then big identification, okay. And then you cannot even listen to anybody else say anything else. Not to say that not compared to Vedanta, but this we say between ourselves only, You don't go around saying that to people. If it is Bhagavad Gita, but this group talks about the other group, bring down the other group and so on, the one who sees all groups, all notions, all philosophies, all deliveries of of people's understanding. And you observe all of that without taking part. Impartial. I hear you say belongs to all groups. No, it's better don't belong to any groups. Be neutral. Be neutral and be properly positioned as well. I'm saying that in respect to the fact that sometimes I listen to. This is all because of YouTube Premium that brings all kinds of videos. And once you tap into that, you develop somehow your profile. They keep throwing more of those things, you know. And then I listen to all these different deliveries, you know, spiritual people try to. They are all small modifications of the Gita, but mostly invariably rejecting the the two initial steps in the process of spirituality, which is Karma Yoga, devotion to God, and Upasana. They just take those fragments of the Yin Yoga of the Upanishads and they modified to call that their teaching. And it's so confusing. It's so confusing. Today I heard one from the Zen Buddhism, because there are so many subdivisions of Buddhism. And it's unbelievable mess and confusing with loose statements here and there. And I say, oh my God, how can people be helped by those pointers, you know, those loose pointers with misleading implied meanings behind those statements? So the one who is free from sorrow, whatever the type of experience he faces, should not produce sorrow and grief and psychological suffering. Even the greatest Siani does not have control over his experience because the experience are determined by location, uh, time, and parabda, desha, kala, and parabda. So those are the three pillars: time, space, and parabda. And I have no control over one's. We have no control over our parabda, our experience, you know, which are determined by karma fundamentally, which here is present as time, space, and parabda. So in winter there will be cold, in the summer will be hot. Don't fight those things. Don't complain every time it's too cold. Don't complain when summer is too hot. Now, it's too rainy as well. Complain. Some people like to complain regardless. They want to live in a place in which there are no seasons anymore. There is just a perfect weather, 12 months a year. Nobody can control. There is a third factor, which is parabada as well. The Yani's life is governed by a parabada, and therefore parabada brings favorable as well unfavorable karma, circumstance, situations. Atmayana does not make all the situations good, favorable, pleasant. No. Let's not have such foolish expectations. People who are doing some sadhana, trying to hoping for an experience that will be only punya, 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 punya. They are extremely deluded. You understand? Not here in other dimensions. There is no such a thing as only punya. There is an interval of time according to a scripture by which you're going to experience some punya, but you're going to exhaust your punya and you have a lot of papa within your own micro system, you know? Let's not have such a unrealistic expectations. So the only possibility we have is Atmayana, in a way that we can convert all situations. Okay, I would say with Atmayana we can convert unfavorable situations into mere situations. We can convert favorable situations into mere situations. So situations are situations. It's just a parameter. Vedanta cannot change one's parameter, one's circumstantial parameter. Vedanta will help the person developing a healthy and strong, balanced attitude towards all parameters, all situations. The changes must be implemented not externally but internally. The change will not be external, but the change will be in my attitude towards all parameters. What attitude? Just to close, as I told you during the New Year talk, any experience that Bhagavan gives me, it's meant for my spiritual progress. So that's the way we deal with all parameters. And we should have his remembrance and this attitude in our mind, not only every time there is unfavorable situations, but as well when there are favorable situations. All situations, serve the purpose for us to understand that I'm the light of consciousness, illumining and revealing punya papa situations. So if we keep that in mind, we developed equanimity and vairagya, strengths, as we become more and more a reflection of our true nature as witnessing consciousness, illumining my parabada from moment to moment. This is the ultimate goal, which is spiritual growth, spiritual development, more purity, more atmayana properly accomplished. And we all require different experience in life to purify. Here he says that different experience they serve, experience of punya papa, favorable and unfavorable, they are just prasadas that allows us to receive it, not with denial, not with victimization, but with an understanding that allows us to, first of all, be grateful for the parabada, for the opportunity, because it gives us the chance to re-examine and reorganize our lives and our knowledge, spiritual growth. Just as different seeds require different types of weather conditions, one seed requires a lot of rain and so on. This varies. Some of us requires a lot of suffering. Some of us requires a little suffering. Some of us require medium suffering. More often than not, suffering is absolutely necessary, because if we would come and live only with favorable worldly conditions, chances are we would be stuck enjoying the pleasure of punya circumstance. Right? When we're in pain, we just want to find solutions to remove that nagging pain. And emotional pain is very painful. Okay. Listen, I don't know if you remember, we are entering Carnival, and once again, I'm going to do my 8 days seminar in Portuguese language. Lynn, you have some apps with AI. Don't you have an app by which you can simultaneously find legends or translations from Portuguese to English, because if it's not yet available, it will be very soon, from what it looks like. So
I don't know an app like that. Boy, that would be cool, wouldn't it?
yeah, so it's just an idea. If you research again, you can see if it's available. There will
For an
be
audio that would give you a text like a subtitle.
subtitle. Yeah, subtitle. I mean,
Yeah.
in the near future, there will be simultaneously
Go for it.
translation as well, verbal translate. But subtitle
Yeah,
nowadays would be the easiest. Just as an
that would,
idea, I'm gonna be doing 4 classes of 1 hour a day for 8 days, and
what,
it is an Upanishad, and I'm sure that you would enjoy, joining those classes. Uh,
which you punish.
Kaivalaya Upanishad.
Okay.
Okay, and
Yeah. Well, give us the link and I'll see if I can find something and share
yeah,
it.
I will share with you guys the link. Okay, so I'm going to preserve my voice for this marathon, and I won't be with you Friday, neither next week, but I'm looking forward for you to join us some of our class if you find a way to get the subtitles. All right. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Om Shwara Namaste. Good to be with you guys. Love you.
Always.
Hug you.
Thank you.
Meet
Okay,
soon.
thanks, Arlindo.
Thank
Have
you.
a good week teaching, and
Yeah.
look forward to seeing you on your return as well.
Okie dokie. Thank you. Bye bye. Me too.
Bye.
Okay, God bless.